Have you ever felt that you as a woman may not appear to measure up when you see incredible women in strong roles? You may be surprised when hearing from women in these positions and how we all share many of the same challenges. Thank you for joining us for the SheEO Lead-In podcast with Rebecca Jones as we share the journeys of women.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Jones, your host of SheEO Lead-In. We are on an exploration together to discover more about the personal journeys of incredible women in both career and life. We all have paths to share that sometimes take incredible turns, deep resilience, and courage to navigate. My hopes are that the challenges shared here encourage women to take deep leaps of faith and growth when a journey feels too difficult or unachievable. There is great strength deep within each one of us. These stories are meant to share the ways strong women have taken their dreams to strive and thrive to new heights, despite their sometimes rocky paths, and found a way to lead in. Today, we are here with Liisa Bozinovic, the Executive Director of Oregon Bioscience Association. How are you today, Liisa?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good. Well, I am super excited to find out about all the things that you do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your normal day looks like, if there is such thing as a normal day? I don't know. I mean, I think most people, our days look a little different, but what do you do at your job?
Yeah, well, I'd be hard-pressed to describe a normal day because they're mostly different, but the Oregon Bioscience Association we're a trade association, so membership-based organization for life science companies based in Oregon and Southwest Washington. And so we support the industry, we support those companies, whether, ranging from the smallest one-person founder-led startup all the way to the large divisions of global companies, right? And so we support them in a number of different ways. So I might be in Salem, meeting with legislators, speaking about issues that are important to our industry. The next day I might be, or the same day even, might be planning our next event, whether that's an annual conference, a pitch fest for our entrepreneurs, or possibly one of our workforce trainings. Another part of my day might be collaborating with our various academic partners on ways that we can better support the workforce or the transfer of technologies out into the industry.
And I think that's an important thing, too, working with the educational institutions so that they're providing the right workforce for what the businesses actually need. And I think that's probably ever evolving as well, don't you think?
It is, for sure. One of the really fun things that just happened in Oregon recently before Kate Brown left is that she signed into bill this $200 million workforce package. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of money right now to help with those workforce development programs, and specifically around supporting what the state is calling priority populations. So we got a grant from the Bureau of Labor and Industry to develop the first ever bioapprenticeship program in Oregon. And it's going to be specifically for women, persons of color, and Indigenous Americans.
Awesome. That sounds great. So let's just talk a little bit about you as a kid. Do you have any fun childhood memories? To start there, just to kind of break the ice as far as who you are just as a person, right? What do you think? Do you have a childhood story that led you to biosciences, or no?
Not from my childhood. I grew up in a small town in Michigan. Had a lot of opportunity to be outside. We weren't tethered at all to phones or electronics back then, right? And so it was just being opportunity to be with your friends and be outside and play. And my dad is an educator, and my mom left school early to raise a family, went back to school, eventually got her bachelor's and master's degree. And so I think, what that sort of led me to, I don't know if that's a fun story necessarily, but what that sort of led me to was the importance of, not giving up on your dreams and really finding an opportunity to pursue those.
Well, in the outdoors part of it, the exploring, which, a lot of kids nowadays, I think, really miss that. I never really had that issue with my kids. My kids were always very outdoorsy, wanted to always be at the ocean or finding something in the backyard. I was talking to one of my our guests a little bit earlier, and we were talking about, just that love of life and the boy thing of wanting to be out and explore and catch animals and all of that. And, that is something that I think really helps shape who we are. I remember my parents used to say to me, well, when the lights come on, on the street lights, you need to come home. And other than that, just go out and stay out of my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was fun. Anyway, so do you have a word, just one word, that describes you best? Can you think of one?
Persistent.
That's good. That's good. And I think persistence and perseverance are things that can't be taught. I think there's something that are deep within us, and they overcome a lot of different things if you think about it. Right? I mean, you can be highly educated and not a self-starter and not persistent and not get very far in life.
Yeah. And maybe I would change it to perseverance, but I would absolutely agree. Yeah. It's all about what you put into it.
So how long have you been doing what you are doing? And if it hasn't been that long, what did you do before? Or when was your first job? That's actually a fun question. I should start asking people that. I think it's fun.
Oh, I think I was in the 5th grade, and I had a newspaper route. So I delivered the Saginaw News. I think I had 80 customers.
Wow.
Rain, shine, snow, didn't matter, out there every day. So
were you riding your bike, or did one of your parents feel sorry for you and help you?
Walking or riding my bike.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. In the snow, you were riding your bike?
No, snow, I would have been walking.
Oh,
bike,
wow.
I never really mastered the sort of ride your bike with the bags over the handlebars and toss the paper toss, landing it right on the porch. But I was okay if I was walking. So I more often than not would walk.
Interesting. Well, so anyway, how long have you been in your career?
Gosh, so that's a sort of a windy path, right, to get where I am today. I graduated with a degree in accounting and got my CPA, worked for a few years in Michigan, and I had a number of clients. So a bakery, brake manufacturer for the automotive industry, some cities, school districts, variety of different industries. And then I left the public sector and went to work for private, firm. And I always really saw myself as an accountant, not necessarily as a worker in any particular industry, right? And I think it was based on that early experience. And then at one point along the way, I was a controller for a medical device company in North Carolina, and sort of had this light bulb moment when one of our engineers came in, and she was prepping a career talk for her son's school, elementary school, and she was building this board with all of our products. We were plastic processor, so you can imagine balloons for heart procedures or plastic-coated catheters and things that are going inside the body. And so she was prepping this board and sort of running by me like everything that she was going to say to these, I don't know, maybe they were 5th or 6th graders. And the light bulb went on for me is I'm not really, it's not that I'm just an accountant, right, or a controller, and my job is the finances, but I'm actually part of something much bigger than that. And I could do the same career day, talking about accounting, but talking about all the different jobs that are available in the life science industry through the eyes of our products or our, solutions, whatever it is we're offering. So that was sort of, that kind of kept me in the industry, I guess, if you will. And so I had a couple jobs since then, but all within that industry.
And so how long have you been at your current job?
Just under 4 years.
Okay. So that is an interesting light bulb moment where you kind of think, I really like this particular part of the job, and now I'm going to focus on it. And, when I'm talking to young people, I tell them all the time, try things that are maybe outside what you consider to be your wheelhouse or that you're comfortable with, because you might find something that you're very passionate about. And I think that light bulb moment, based on what you said, and actually on your facial expressions too, really was that moment where you went, you know what, I really am passionate about this part of it.
Yeah. And I think, trying things allows you to just build your toolkit too, right? So over time, in my various roles, I had an HR, human resources hat on for a while. I had an operations hat. And so I think everything that I did really led me to the career that I'm in today and the role that I play today. But it was not a direct path. I did not have this in my sights 10 years ago, 20, even 5 years ago.
Well, and what's interesting is I think, things have definitely evolved. When my dad was working his job, he worked the same job pretty much, different companies, but always for the government. He was a government subcontractor, always in the same industry, not really changing much at all. I think that's very different now today, don't you?
I do. Yeah. It used to be you'd look at a resume and if you saw someone that was sort of quote unquote a job hopper, you might put them to the bottom of the pile. And it's not so much anymore. You sort of expect that of folks, and you see that quite a bit.
Well, it's been an evolution, and really finding something I think that you're very passionate about, really, then you're happier, you're more productive, I think, when you're happy. And everyone around you, you really build this whole sense of community at your job when you are happy and when you are more productive. And I think we all definitely rise together. And I love that whole exploring how that actually affects productivity in businesses and how that all works. Anyway, so what do you think about measurement of success? How do you measure success?
For me, I think it's about how well I'm balancing everything in my life. Success is not just in my career, but also in my family, in my charitable work. And at any given point, that balance might be out of whack, right? It's not necessarily about how it's balanced every day or every week or sometimes even every year, but just over sort of the course of time. If I feel like I'm giving the right amount to the people and the activities in my life is sort of how I feel successful.
Well, and it depends on at any given time in our lives. When my kids were little, I was actually having this conversation earlier too. There are moments where I was thinking, oh my gosh, I am the worst mother in the world because I'm not spending the time that I want with my kids. And then, you think, okay, well, this is just for a season. And the truth is, it really is just for a season most of the time. Usually you can say, okay, well, it's going to be for this week because I have a big project coming forward or something like that. And then next week, it's not going to be as bad. I think it's a lot of ups and downs. And I think as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that, we have to do everything like June Cleaver, from Leave It to Beaver. But that's not reality. The reality is it is an ebb and flow. It is an up and down. It is a season of, tougher times and then, times where you can actually sit and rest a little bit. But I think there are a lot of women in particular that really are hard on ourselves because we're not balancing. But balance, like you said, it's not always going to feel like a balance. I actually had someone tell me that it's like having all these balls in the air. Sometimes you might have 3. Sometimes you might have 10. It really depends on that moment in your life. What are your thoughts about all of that?
And they're not always in the air either, right?
No.
Sometimes they drop.
And sometimes you have to kick them back up in the air with your foot because your hand can't reach it. So, it is a definite ebb and flow. And, even thinking about how failures affect that, do you have any wisdom about, what failure has happened in your life, if you've had any?
I feel like I've been so really fortunate so far in my life. When I think back about my role models, though, there's a lot of women in my life that were refreshingly honest, just like this conversation we're having today. Back when maybe it wasn't necessarily appropriate to be honest about, those challenges and how do you have it all and can you have it all? And but really talking with honesty and frankness about where they feel they're failing and, and then kind of helping lift each other up. I don't think I quite answered your question, but that's what came to mind when you asked that.
Well, Lisa, let's be honest. There are a lot of people that can't even handle honesty even today. I have one way of doing it. I'm very direct. I just feel like life is short. And, I had an ex that had a life-threatening disease. And so for me, I'm like, I don't have time for all that. I really just want to get down to it. And let's have a real conversation because I don't really like what I see out on social media and all that. And I'm not picking on social media, but there's a lot of phoniness of it. I don't want to be phony. I want to have authentic, true, real conversations. But I don't think everyone can do that. Do you?
Yeah, I think that unfortunately social media probably makes it even harder to do that because there is sort of this false sense of reality. It's not filters, all the filters and, you need to look like this and you need to look like that. Let's face it, we all look different. No one's going to look the same unless, of course, you had tons of plastic surgery so you look like someone else. But I personally really like who I am. And you know what? Maybe that's an age thing. Not everyone feels that way. I get it. But we have all these outside forces as women that really affect how we see ourselves and how we see others. Yeah, it's true. And, raising daughters and a son. But I really
How old are your daughters?
So I have 5 kids total.
Oh, wow.
They range in age from 23 to 15. Okay. And the 2 oldest and 2 youngest are daughters. So.
Oh, wow. So a boy right smack dab in the middle?
Right smack dab in the middle. Yeah,
gosh.
But, that, and they have their electronics and they're on, they have social media and whatnot. But I hope that we have instilled in them this idea that, it's okay to be honest and to admit when you don't know something and ask questions and seek out advice and be, it's that growth mindset.
We need to have more of that because the truth is, it is real. It is reality. And if you're not equipped, it's a hard world. If you're not ready to, say it like it is and have some, truth and honesty and authenticity, I think that is so important these days, and even more now than ever because of the whole pandemic and the sense of isolation that many people have felt. I had so many people calling me up and saying, I'm really struggling, which I loved. I didn't love that they were struggling, but I love them being able to say it out loud because I think part of being authentic and being able to be direct and all of that is the fear of judgment. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it helps us as a society to hide behind things. And, again, back to social media, you look and, they have a seemingly perfect life. I'd rather hear, hey, you know what? I'm struggling today. I need help. I need a village. Do you have a village, by the way? Like a group of people, like a tribe? I think that, for me, is my safe place as a woman.
Yeah, I think because we have such a big family, my tribe is mostly within the family and a couple close friends, really. But definitely a huge support when needed, for sure.
Right, and we all need it at times. I mean, shoot, life is hard. So, have you had many significant issues with leading men in your job, or not so much?
I think I've just been very fortunate, really, in my career, and I've never had an issue being led by men or leading men that I can think of. and I've heard horror stories out there
True.
in
Yeah.
both directions, but thankfully, knock wood.
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that.
Well, I think as women, we have definitely something that's important to bring to the table in a team setting, because sometimes men can be too harsh, but when they hear what we have to say, they kind of rethink their positions. Not always, of course. But sometimes I feel like we soften the edges a little bit. Don't you? Do you think so? Or yeah?
Yeah, I think I find that to be the case. I also work with a lot of women. I think recently in my career, I would say in my not so recent past, I found that to be much more true.
So role models, do you find that more of them are women or men, or about the same?
More are women.
Interesting.
And I think it's really about that, I can identify with them and connect, and it comes back to me of just those authentic women that aren't afraid to talk about their challenges and help support and lift other women up versus...
Oh, yes. Not mean girls. We don't like the mean girls. Right. I don't like the mean girls. I'm like, why? Why are you being so mean? We have enough challenges as a woman. We don't need that on top of it. I can't stand that. So, just thinking about role models, I actually feel like there is as much value in leaders that you don't like their leadership style and where you say, gosh, I'm never going to do that. Don't you think?
Yeah, had some of those, and I have,
Steer clear. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what are some things that you've seen that where you go, oh my gosh, I will definitely never do that? What are some things? Share with us.
Gosh.
Mine is, I do not like when people yell. Why are you yelling at your employees? When I hear someone yelling, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, now I'm tuning them out because I don't really care what they have to say because they've lost control, which means they've lost some of my respect, quite frankly. Raising their voices, berating, belittling. I just tune it out. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. It's terrible. So what do you think about that?
Similarly, like diminishing certain members of the team for various ideas and kind of shutting people down. I think what I noticed a number of times in my career when with persons in leadership is that there's a ripple effect of their decisions that they're oblivious to. And so I really try to, whether it's just, a decision that they made that they didn't communicate it in the right way or to the right people, something that they said that they didn't understand how it was perceived, right? And so I really try to think through what my actions and my words, how those are impacting people. And I think it was because of a lot of that experience early on in my career that I saw that.
One of the things that I do, and it actually is exhausting, and I really wish I didn't do it, but it's just part of who I have become, is I'm thinking of all of these consequences that can actually happen. When I see something kind of unfolding, I think, oh my gosh, this could happen, that could happen, or that could happen. And then I'm trying to figure out how I can try to bring it back to a good outcome and not one of the negative outcomes. So I feel like sometimes I'm like 2 miles ahead and I'm thinking, oh, it's exhausting to come up with all these ideas. But I think it also, is kind of a way you can also mitigate any disasters. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just totally off the reservation on that one. But what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, I think it's good. I don't know. I feel like that's rather normal, right? Is to just think about all of the different outcomes that could play out, and then you choose the one that you think is the best solution and try to work in that direction.
Well, and clearly there are some people that don't think through the outcomes.
Yeah, right. Well, yes.
And again, back to my point of sometimes you learn things where you go, oh, I'm definitely not going to do that because they didn't think that through. Or if they did, oh gosh, they should have thought it through a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Because the outcome was maybe so obvious that it was going to go that far.
Yeah, normal was maybe not the right choice of words, but it makes sense to me.
No,
I
of
guess, what you're
course. Yeah,
saying.
yeah. So role models and mentors, again, you had men and women pretty much, you think? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I've described, in general, what a lot of those are sort of in my personal, my work life, in my humanitarian or social work, charitable work life. There's one in particular that really stands out for me who it's an individual who just gives and gives and gives and gives and gives and to the point where it's probably not healthy for him and he shouldn't do that much, right? But whenever I'm struggling, I'm on a couple nonprofit boards and trying to make an impact here and there, right? And whenever I'm struggling with being able to give more or what that commitment looks like, whether it's time or whatnot, I always go back to this one individual, and he's sort of my inspiration there. So
nice.
That's a nice thing to have.
So lessons learned. Do you have some lessons that you would like to share with our listeners today that you think they could apply to their lives as well that's helpful?
Yeah, I think that, especially younger listeners, that growth mindset is something that I think is really key. When I mentioned my first job out of college was at a public accounting firm, fresh out of school, junior accountant, staff person. And I saw these partners of this firm, and I, was trying to understand what it is that they did, and client relationships and selling business. And I just thought, well, I can never do that. There's no way, And so 2-3 years later, I got my certification. I transitioned out. And I think my path has been a good one, and I'm really pleased with where I ended up. But I wonder sometimes, if I hadn't been so closed-minded to that and really understood that they didn't start out as partners. They started out like I did.
Sure.
Where they had the same questions and concerns about their ability, right? So just be open to possibilities and pursue those. I think find mentors, be a mentor. It's never too early to mentor someone because you're always ahead of somebody, right? Even if it's a high school student or so on and so forth.
Well, I think we can learn from people that are less experienced, but a different person than ourselves.
Yep.
I tell people all the time, I'm going to be learning until the day I die. And that, that is an important, there's some humility in that. But I think it's also, knowing that change is inevitable and there's always going to be change, and to be able to keep that in your mind, because look at how much during the pandemic, a lot of things changed. Truly, the way we do business, a lot of people are able to now work remotely. We've had a whole evolution, and, again, if you're not open to that, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
There's no way you can operate in a mindset of zero change forever. It's not going to happen. You'll never be successful in that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
And be okay being uncomfortable and admitting you don't know something, right? It's refreshing and
totally. Well, and that's, an authentic thing to do, to just be real, straightforward, and say, you know what? I can be a mess on days. I don't know that answer, and today I'm disorganized. And I think it's important to be real to people, and in conversations and in leadership. Just because you're a leader doesn't mean that you are somehow now perfect. It's not real. It's not reality.
Yeah, far from it.
So you walk into a room of young people that are looking up to you. What would be some advice that you would give them?
I feel like I've said it. I really don't be afraid of what you don't know. Mm-hmm. I think that's really key. And just go out and pursue your passions. Like I think you mentioned earlier in the show, right? You're going to be much more, you're going to be much better at what you do if you like what you do. And everyone's going to be better for it. So I would say don't give up on your dreams, pursue your passions, be honest about what you don't know, and always be open to learning.
Well, and your personal life's going to be better too when you're happy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It all is definitely meshed together for sure. So what's next on your journey, Liisa?
Oh, that's a good question. We have a lot of great partners in Oregon, and I'm really excited about some of the coalitions that we've built, even in just the past year or so. There were about we led a group of 4 academic institutions and 80 other organizations to submit a grant to the National Science Foundation to really revolutionize healthcare and access for rural populations to healthcare in Oregon. And, that grant itself is a long shot and it's a very competitive process. So we'll see. But we started building this group of like-minded people that really want to make some big ideas happen. So I'm really excited about this
what I would love to see in healthcare? I think it would be, well, and there's a little discussion about it, but having an ability for everyone to have someone that's going to be fighting for their health. So almost like an advocate of some sort, because there are a lot of people that, end up older or maybe in bad health, and they don't have that support system, for whatever reason. I think it's important for each one of us to have someone that's going to fight for our health and help us find information that we don't know, right? We just don't know about it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's one of the things. If I had a dream that would be realized here, that would be something that I think would be very revolutionary for healthcare, to feel like you've got an advocate, because a lot of people that I speak to say, I feel like a number. I don't feel like anyone really cares. And it's not that their doctors don't care, but they're just so taxed. They're they're overburdened or whatever. So anyway, if you could work on that.
Yeah, that sounds good. We partner a lot with advocacy or patient advocacy organizations. And I think, even in COVID, that really became, especially for folks with the most severe cases where they were hospitalized, if you didn't have that advocate, we saw that play out, pretty negatively.
Their outcomes were not as good. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much, Liisa. Really appreciated our time together. Thank you for coming and sharing a little bit about how you got to what you're doing. And you're amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed being here.
Now that was powerful. We hope you've been lifted and encouraged by today's inspiring voice. Always remember that life doesn't look exactly the same for each one of us. Never stop dreaming, striving, and thriving. In future episodes, we look forward to bringing you powerful stories from amazing women who learn how to lead in to challenges. Thank you for listening and being part of our community with SheEO host Rebecca Jones.